start. The time is now, and you'll probably hear me better if I'm a little distant from you and don't use my mask, so I'm going to do that. We do want to give you the usual friendly reminders about the courtesy to others while you're here. And I think this is going to be a pretty cordial session, so I'm not too worried about that. I did have a couple of... Can the folks that are online hear me okay?
When you walked away, no, but now, yes.
Okay, now you can. Okay, so each of us that's presenting will need to be here. We have, I think we're going to fill the 90 minutes because I'm just going to give a quick pitch, really, on why we need this and why we are here. And then Holger Drass, systems engineer, who really was instrumental in the development of this, is going to go through our selection process. And then we have Alberto Pitolo on from the vendor Tecnoteca in Italy, northern Italy, and he will be actually going through a demo of it and showing us what the system will do for us and all of its functionality, or at least kind of an introduction to it. And so maintenance of everything that we've got hasn't been haphazard to this point. Everybody cares, everybody wants to do the right thing, but this is a tool that will allow us to do it a lot more systematically than we ever have in the past. And it's not JIRA, it's not just the usual project scheduling tools. It's designed just for the maintenance and management of the maintenance of facilities and equipment. And I think as we use it and as we get familiar with it, it will hopefully endear itself to us and be a time saver rather than a time, another burden on our time. It should actually help us in that way, and keeping track of things like the generators and the compressors and the elevators, all the other kinds of things that we have to maintain. Our process for getting here, I'll let Holger go through it, but it was extremely serious. We have buy-in from every level of management, and we had Telescope and Site sort of led the process, although, as I say, Holger from Systems Engineering was a pretty important contributor. Slack, we had participants from all parts of the project, and it was a lengthy 2-year process, longer than 2 years, to get us to this point of the selection and finally ready to roll it out. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Holger and let me see if there's anything else in the reminders that I was supposed to forwarding. Slides are not forwarding. And maybe, can you do it? You go to there's 2 of those, right? The friendly reminder slides. No. And you're going to need to forward for your slides anyway.
Let's go out here.
Oh, yeah, that was the second one. Yeah, the other one was more or less the regular stuff about the codes of conduct for the whole conference. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll turn it over to Holger, and I want to leave enough time for the demo and some time for questions and answers after that. We will be watching the chat, and we will be also looking at the Slack line in case others that are online want to send in any questions. We'll try to address them. Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to Holger.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So let's see, change over here to the slides. If I go to full screen. So now you should see my presentation. It's a slightly little bit different from the other presentations. So if you cannot see anything, something, and you would like to describe me something more in detail, please let me know. We want to be here fully inclusive in any sense. I also receive questions in Spanish, so don't worry. You can ask, you can interrupt me in between. I believe I can hear you when you open your microphone, so that should be no problem. And other than that, I will just tell you a little bit about how we actually selected the maintenance system. So what we were looking for, it's a system that is not only giving us can help us to maintain our observatory, but we also wanted to have it that it's fully computerized. We want to have it as much automatic as possible later on, and we want to have it comprehensive. So, and our motivation for this actually comes here from this. We want to have a great observatory, and it should last forever, but nothing comes for free. So if we want to have it forever, we need to invest into maintenance. We have a guideline that comes from our top level requirements, and actually you can see here, I'm not sure if you can read it, but basically it says that we want to have a comprehensive system-wide predictive maintenance, and we want to have a maintenance system that can be preventive, so we can actually do things before they actually happen. We can predict them, and we can be sure that we are fixing things on time, and we minimize anything that is keeping us from observing, and have a high reliability on all the components that we are using. This flows down here to Telescope and Sight, and I believe this is why Telescope and Sight took it on, and why now first Sandrine and now Jeff were guiding this group here. So our first step was to build up a working group, and you can see here the members. First was Sandrine, then it was Jeff. Chuck was always with us, and Eduardo from the summit management, and was shining in here on. We have Christian Silva, who gave his input on the IT aspects of the system. Diane, she looked for everything related to the camera that might be needed over the lifetime of the camera. Wouter helped us with the software. On the documentation side, we had Matthew, and systems engineering with Austin and me, we were helping out in this part of the process. So what we did first, we collected use cases. We found 40 common use cases, 5 preventive use cases, and 2 predictive ones. I will not talk about all of them here. I just wanted to show you how we went to them. Our idea was we would like to make sure that this system fits needlessly into the observatory ecosystem that we are already existing or that we are planning to have. So we try to answer question, what are the interfaces, what do we want to have, what we don't want to have. One thing is that we want to manage the maintenance activities. On the other hand, we want to have our inventory organized with this system. We don't want to have it as a work management system, and we do not want to have it as a procurement system. And this might be actually very different for other observatories. This has to do with that we have Jira already in place. We are using Reckless. We will have interfaces to Jira that's automatic. To Reckless, it will be more things that we will have in through a human interface. Somebody has to pick up the information and then go on for procurement issues. So, of the use cases, we went to 40 early design decisions that helped us to shrink down or decide better what we want to have. And we then filled this in with more than 100 requirements. They fall into 10 different categories. And you can see we have here the LTS number, so it's all on the internet. And if you're interested in details, I'm happy to guide you through this. So our 10 categories, you can see them here. It's pretty technical, but we have from everything a little bit that we want to have that the user can connect in certain ways. We want to have a handle on freedom to choose what are our categories later on, how we do scheduling. We want to have on the maintenance activity execution. We want to have a history on this. We want to decide how to do things and how to document things. We have certain linking capabilities that we were asking for. Later on, we'd like to have reports that are giving us detailed information for different persons with different interests. Management want to have different aspects seen, and then maybe the heads of the different engineering and disciplines. So all of this is organized here. And at the end, we also was considering pricing and effort. That became a category here. But mainly we were focusing in the beginning on the first 9 categories. We next went into a trade-off analysis. That's actually a very interesting tool, and it's very powerful to get everybody else's opinion and priorities into this kind of analysis. So we took our 10 categories, and we were asking the working group member, how important is one criterion with respect to any other? That gives you a long table, I can tell you, but you go on, you average about this, and then you get to a number that gives you a weighting factor for each of your categories. So what's more important than other things? We filled this in, and we went through all our 10 categories. And with this, we started a candidate selection. So we went to the internet, we picked up recommendations, we asked ourselves what could be the best one, and we had 26 candidates. We did a first selection with information that are available and our constraints that we already know that we are having from the early design decisions, and only 12 were compliant. It goes down pretty quickly, you will see. 6 of them received a preliminary questionnaire with a couple of questions from our categories. Only 6 were able to answer in a way, they answered at all, or they answered in a way where that they were satisfying our needs. These 6 candidates got the 100 requirements, we got responses, and we asked them for a quote. So we first time got information on how much it will cost the project. We went on and take now our derived trade-off analysis and rated the responses and scored them with our weighting factors, and then we were selecting the top 3 candidates. I can tell you there was a big gap between the first 3 and the later 3. We went to ask them and give us a demo. So people came to us actually in person. And at this moment, I would like to introduce you Alberto, who is here right now with us. He already was one of the persons who was so kind to present without knowing what is a benefit for them. And they gave us actually an hour, 2-hour long informations. And we looked at it with the working group and with a number of people that are now here on the call, the heads of the different disciplines, to get a first impression on the system. We asked everybody to give us feedback. We collected it, and actually we reviewed it in the working group. We evaluated. We looked at our scores again. So we did tests. Is our scoring how much is it depending on our questions, on our subjective evaluation. So we changed a bit to make sure that we really have a robust system, and we ended up with one top candidate. That's where our decision is, and I will describe to you the next steps in a moment, and that's where my talk is finishing. And actually here, most of you already know it, Technoteca with the project openMAINT made it, and I'm happy to announce here that Alberto is with us from Technoteca, and he will give you a hands-on experience on what we are really getting here into it, and he's open for questions. Again, I'm super happy to help with translating here. And internally, we were looking at our working group, how to go on in the future. The working group will go on existing, and many of the members will stay. We have Matthew here. Eduardo, he will take more on, I understand, for the summit. David, he's here with us too. From the documentation side, he will work on it. And then more of the summit specialists for the mechanical, electrical, and electronics engineering coming in, and other disciplines. And very welcome. If anybody of you wants to get better to know the system, I'm happy we have access already. It is installed, you see. Thanks to the IT team, installation is done. We are good so far. One of the great benefits of the system is it's super flexible, so we can really accommodate all kinds of things, all ideas that you have got. why we need to know them, and we need to work on it. And that's where we have Alberto in. He will be with us, and we have asked for later on for lessons where we will get training on the system. So that's also all within the package. And from systems engineering side, of course, we have written requirements, so we want to tick them off, and we want to make sure that everything we ask for, we really have done there. But that's after configuration, right? After configuration testing. And with this, I would like to pass the presentation. No, first I would like to ask you if you have questions up to here. Anybody online? And no. Glenville says, Jeff also said, yeah. So. Yeah. Come here. Yes. Jeff comes over.
Yeah, sorry, you probably can't hear me when I'm not at a microphone. I was just saying that we're going to turn this over to Alberto. I think that's where the questions may come up as you see how this looks and imagine how it's going to look for us, because it's a little different. I will also say that we're in the initial stages of populating the system with our information. So you're going to see stuff that's a little bit more generic and is sort of in the process of becoming the Rubin openMAINT CMMS system, but really what he will be demoing is the functionality of the system in general. And I think it's going to generate some questions, and at the end we'll also talk a little bit, if there's time, about how we're going to get trained on this, who's going to be the, Holger's already touched on it, who will be our leads for documentation and management of it on the site, and who will just be, kind of the light users, the generators of tickets, and who will actually be running it for us on the mountain. So we'll touch on all that, but without further ado, I think we want to turn this over to Alberto. Are you ready to share your screen, Alberto?
Yes, of course.
Maybe I have one question, actually.
Wait.
I'll ask one question.
We have a question in the room from Martin Nordby.
Sorry, just regarding the system, is this basically our implementation expected to be pretty much out of the box, or is there a lot of customization? Maybe you'll get into that, but
he likely will. There is a lot of customization, actually,
okay. Right.
and I'm not sure it's been mentioned yet, but this is an open source tool, so you could actually just go on and get one to maintain your own house if you wanted to.
Okay.
But what we're really getting from them, and what I think Alberto will touch on, is support, customization, online help, training, and turning it into our system. Also, there's other special things that you need to pay for, like mobile app compatibility and things like that. So I think we'll get into all of that.
Okay.
But yes,
Sounds
it's
good.
very customized for us. Okay, we ready to go, Alberto?
Yeah. First of all, morning, everybody, and I would like to thank Jeff and Holger for the introduction. I hope you can see my screen. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So yes, perfect. So please stop me if there is something wrong. So thanks again. I would like only to show a couple of introductory slides concerning the company, and then move on to the demo. Afterwards, I would like to tell you something more regarding our software, and then, of course, there is to leave room and space for questions that will rise during my presentation. So just a couple here of points. As previously stated, we are an Italian company located in northern Italy, and we focused our main product is an open source software for basically asset management in a wide sense. So the project started in 2006, and the branded name is CMD Build. And from that, we deploy two different products that are ready to use, that mainly taught for IT governance, and openMAINT, the one that we will describe later on, regarding the product and facility management in a wide sense, of course. We are the maintainers, developers, and we can provide maintenance, support, training, assistance, but as stated, it's an open source software, so you can be able to do whatever you want by your own, if you want, of course. Besides that, we are also capable to and develop web and mobile apps, also based on Python or also Zope or Plone, and basically Java and JavaScript environment. So just to give you an overall idea. Our team is composed about 25 between juniors and senior engineers, but if it seems small, we belong to a bigger group company, also with our independent structure, that we belong to the Zucchetti Group that has over 1 billion euros turnover, so a big company, and part of the PAT group company. So this is just to give you an overview of the company and who we are and where we are. This is our headquarters, as you can see in the image. But now, this is enough for now. I would like to move on a live demonstration. So excuse me in advance if I made some mistakes, because I have configured some basic behaviors and data and names by my own. So probably I've made some mistakes because I understand the environment, because I'm the passion, let's say, in this field, but probably I've done something wrong. So excuse me for that. And as I said, this is the first demo, and you have to think about everything that I show you. It's as a demo to show the basic behaviors and what you can do with the system. But you have to imagine that it's like a whiteboard where you can draw and configure whatever you want. So our philosophy is that the system, the application, adapts to the needs of the company or the users, and not vice versa. So, said that, I would like to show you the demo. I think you can see it. Okay, here we are. So here I'm logged in the application, the openMAINT application, as a super user, as you can see here at the top right of the screen. So more or less I have powers on everything. So then I will discuss how you can change this and how we manage different roles and groups of departments. First of all, yes,
Alberto?
please.
Do
Yes.
you mind? Are you able to zoom in a little bit? It's a little hard to see the words.
Yes. Is this better?
That is a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. So I hope that everything fits the page. Otherwise, I will zoom out again. So basically, we have essentially a navigation menu here on the left-hand side that is, of course, completely customizable and configurable depending on the users, but also on the role. So each one that logins can see a different structure here. Also, if the data model underlying is the same, of course. So also this can be configured as you want and for any role. And here in the right-hand side, you have the space for the grid, so the store of the data. In this case, as a complex, I have imagined the whole structure of the Rubin Observatory. So for now, I have only one grid, but I can have more. You can see here, I can also open it a bit bigger. The informations of this card. So the data that can be filled and that can be put into the system, of course. You can have a preview here, and you can see, for example, an image of the site, as well as you can store, for example, a website. If I click there, I can move on. Yes, this is the website, of course, of the Rubin Observatory. I can put whatever I want, of course. Jump back again here. One important thing to know is that each of the elements here is completely and totally, let's go versioned. So any change to any field is tracked to the system and can be, I can be back to who, when, and where, and what have been modified. So for example, now I go there, I put something here, and I change this to good, and I save. This change is tracked by the system, and in the history, I can see that now I have performed the change to what? You can see an orange circle. I hope that with the resolution of the screen you can see it on the tabs that have been modified. So under maintenance data, the condition has changed, and under dimensional data, the glazed area has been changed. If I want to see the previous values, I can go there and I see that the maintenance was excellent and now it's good, or the dimensional data was without this information. So everything is tracked to the system. You can also have the details. For example, here I can imagine as buildings, but you can name it units or whatever, the consisting parts of the structure. So for example, you have the coating chamber, the control room, the telescope itself, the machine shop, the dome, etc., etc. So you have the details of what is connected to that complex. You can add notes, and this, as I already said, you can use for any card, so for any record in the system. Beyond that, you have the relationships. So you have here any relationship insisting from and to that record. So I don't want to go too much in detail. If you have questions, you can ask me later, don't worry. And also beyond that, you can manage if you need emails, so send emails also directly from the card, for example, with informations captured directly from the information stored on the card, so the email will automatically be filled with informations on the card. And latest, you can upload any kind of attachment. So here only, for example, document and image, but you can define any document or any type of document you want for any metadata you want. For example, here I have only code and description, but I can put any information I desired. And also this is versioned. Now this is version 0.1, but I can version also the attachment, of course. Another interesting point is you can not only have how can I say, a grid navigation, but you can exploit also a visual map navigation. For example, here, I can zoom out. We are here, so the telescope is here. So I can zoom in, and if I zoom in, then I can also have a greater degree of informations. And if I press here, I can also have, and preview with maybe some basic informations of this structure. As if I go inside, I can of course select one of that. I can see the stuff that is there, or also see here the things that are here, so the coating chamber, and also the elements that belongs to each of these. For example, here for the vertical platform, I have the chain placed at east, north, south, west. So it's a demo, so sorry in advance. So I can press the arrow or directly from the map, and I will go to the, for example, coating chamber, or maybe I can see here the different parts and maybe basic details with a picture if I want. So I can have a direct how can I say, a preview directly moving on the map. And not only this like element by element information, but I can also, if I maybe hide this, show some basic informations. So like, for example, in this case, I can see what is what. So this is the telescope, this is the pyre, this is the platform, the camera, and so on. So I can have some basic informations concerning the elements. Of course, each of those, as you can imagine, the orange one is the selected one. I can have, if I press one of that, I can have also all the list of the details here. So as if I am consulting the grid, I can have all the details of the card here. So all the informations, and access them directly from the card. So here we have the light screen, but if I move there, I have the informations of the dome. So everything is automatically synchronized. You have, as I discussed, a navigation tree here that allows you a browsing according to a certain hierarchy that you can define, and you have also the list. So basically what you can see here, you can also have a reduced set of informations also directly from the map, so here, and also the layers. So you have to imagine that here you can also have a bidimensional view of your structure. Not only that, but you can also have something like, I've imagined something like the criticality, or is something with the warnings or errors. You can have this, you can apply as many as style rules, let's call it like that, you want to, for example, identify the status, or in this case, the criticality of any of your pieces, components, systems, whichever you want. So in this case, you can see that this is low criticality, high, extreme, high, and low, and moderate, or whichever. So for example, let's think these are problems or errors, or whichever. This is an error, this is okay, this has some warnings. You can think about everything. So just to give you a preview of what you can configure. Not only, as I was saying, a bidimensional representation, but you can have also a three-dimensional representation. This is a sample file that technicians was able to provide me. I can imagine that it's not really representative. I have another one, but it's just to try to give you one example of what I can do. And also in this case, I can do whatever you want, like zoom in, zoom out, but also in this case, I can press and I have the card elements. So this, for example, are the informations concerning this element, as well as I press that one and I have the information concerning that element. Yes, please.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
Just probably many people already know it, but that is a shaft for the P-flow lift. So this goes up in front of all the building, and it will be used later on to transport the very heavy loads. So it's only the outer part of it, not actually the lift itself that is shown here. I saw some people on that might not identify it.
Right. I just wanted to add another word on that, because the modeling, 3D modeling, and bringing in from SolidWorks, or I'm not sure from the camera, Solid Edge or AutoCAD or all the other files, there is file conversion necessary, and we're just getting into that. And this was our first pass, and this is what came up when we converted a file from the flow lift. So it's basically just the shaft. We're working on it, and we'll work with Alberto to improve that. But the idea is that when you bring something up, you would have this manipulatable 3D file that you would, or 3D viewer that you'd be able to see any piece and part of the observatory, not down to the nuts and bolts, but with some level of selectability and articulation that would be meaningful. So this was our first pass, and now I can see Alberto is moving on to what it might really look like when we finally get our files to work. Thanks.
Exactly. This is another sample file that maybe, yes, is less meaningful for you, but it's a structure, as you can see. And let's imagine that this is your observatory, so you have all the components of the part, so maybe it's more understandable. And here, as before, you can click on any element and know the information concerning that element, as well as you can have different layers so of visibility. For example, I can hide the slab, so you can see that something disappears, and also maybe the covering and I can have a top view, so I can see here from, let's identify what's that. This is a part, so let's hide it. I can see from the top, like a CAD, the structure, or I can browse like here, so moving in 3D, or use the cube to navigate properly. So also this is really, really helpful. But also the cross section. So if you want, for example, let's think that you have a piece of the telescope and you want to see the inside, you can cut, put something like that, and you can see that I can move the section. So let me zoom in. I can, with this, like, cut the model. Also, maybe I can rotate it, the cutting plane, so in whichever direction. So it's really useful, for example, to see the insides of the element. And as before, we have only to identify the correct strategy to extract from your SolidWorks file and to the EFC in order to bring in the informations. And then we are also capable to not only have the 3D structure, but also create the elements. So each part of the drawing of the EFC file as a card, and if the EFC file, the source file, contains the informations maybe related to dimensions, material, etc., also collect and get these informations and automatically synchronize and put them into the system. Moreover, you can access these files from the map, from here, so directly from the card. So I press this button, as you can see, and access the model, so directly from the card. But I can go also, if I am on the map, as I have seen, we have seen before, also from the map here. And the most interesting thing is that once I have identified my element, let's assume this one, also from the drawing, I can directly open the sheet or the card related to that element. So sorry, opens me the map. So I can have here the element directly from the drawing, and so a maintainer or an operator can modify or update any information, or maybe only just see all the technical details concerning this. Just a couple of words before to move on the maintenance, that maybe is the most important part. We have, but as before, you can do many other different layout that you can imagine. Of course, we have also colored values to make, highlight different state conditions, or also icons to make it clear in which state it is this asset, and also, for example, quick filters to to filter only the selected items, but there are plenty of functionalities that I can show you. And we have not only a grid, so representation, so family by family. So here I have the complexes, here I have the buildings, and so on. But we can also have hierarchical representation. So for example, here I have the site, and here you can see all the cards. So what I'm seeing here, I can see also here if it's more practical for me. And when I press maybe one level here, I can see all the things belonging to that level. So like in a hierarchical navigation. So you have multiple way to move into the system. And here, for example, you have a general locations, so sites and assets, but you can also, of course, store system plans, but also like here, basic archives, for example, companies related, for example, I put here our association, or also the P-Flow Industries, that is the one that provides you the lift. So as before here, maybe I have the website, the email, and so on, as well as for Aura, I have the website, and or whichever field you can imagine, you can of course configure, and also the employees that can be external, internal, supplier employees, customer employees, or whichever other employee you want. And now this to give you the basic information that you can store, but you can archive. You can have an archive for anything you want. I would like
Alberto.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Eduardo from Chile.
Yes.
Let me know, please, with what drawing 3D software does openMAINT work with?
Sorry, which software does openMAINT work with?
Yeah, 3D drawing software.
Yes, the 3D viewer accepts IFC files. That is a format like the docx is an extension IFC that came from BIM project management files that can be extracted from SolidWorks. That is another software that you use in your context, as I understood. So we have only to identify the process to extract from SolidWorks an IFC file that is capable of to be imported in the proper way into the system. And IFC and BIM files are standardized files. And technically, if you ask me, the viewer, we use a XeoKit viewer that is an XKT extension, since it's really powerful, but also light. And basically it converts the IFC standard file into a binary XKT file that is really quick to load and view. I hope I have answered this question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
We have another question here.
Yes.
Hi, this is Martin again. Actually, I have a lot of questions about this. It looks really powerful, but one, maybe the first one, you showed sort of geographical location, and it looks like right now, just in your demo, you have things organized by location. I could imagine something like a glycol system or dynoline system, which spans multiple rooms. Can you also break this down more by system? So if we wanted to look at, say, the glycol system, identifying pumps needing maintenance or something like that, it would spread across multiple rooms, multiple areas of the facility. Does that show up? How would that show up here?
Yes, I can show you another demo. Let me access this way. So maybe it's one image, it's more than 1,000 words, so maybe I can answer you this way. So basically,
Probably, I let you search for this. Yes. So
I'm
the
ready
question-
actually.
Yeah.
So if you're meaning this one like that, and here, if I zoom here in, I can have, let's say, for example, this is a sample of rooms with stuffs inside there. Does this answer? So let's imagine that you have.
I think it takes a little bit. You need to imagine like a table that goes through rooms here in this picture. Yeah, we can do this. We can select a subsystem from the 3D model, and it would pull up the model of all your piping. Yes, and you could select pieces of this system in different rooms, for example. So we can organize the organizing structure is up to us, what we want to have. Room-wise is only one way, but we can also organize system-wise, and then we would spread over all locations where a system is located, actually.
Add one more word on
correct.
that, and
Correct.
because I think probably in this demo you'll sort of sense a fine tuning, I guess, of openMAINT system more for, like I say, a hospital or buildings and things that are kind of a little bit more normal, and there's a heck of a lot more of them in the market, so they're users of this. And so one of our challenges will be making it work for our systems. But things like what you're talking about, Martin, where plumbing that goes throughout a building or something like that should be a natural fit for this. I'm a little bit more concerned about things like the camera and the telescope and the oil bearing systems and some of the other things that are very specific in how well this works for that, and not to mention things like software and other kinds of maintenance that we have to do over time. So it's a good fit, but most of the products that are out there are really designed for facility managers of any kind of industrial complex, and not so much for something like a telescope. So we're going to do everything we can with it to make sure that it's the best fit that we possibly can make it.
This as an example, as an implementation use case, so we can try our system with this one. I think that's a very good one. Yes. Another question. Who was over there?
I cannot hear nothing. So is there a question? I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, the room went quiet.
I can repeat. So,
yes.
Chuck Esner says we could select the telescope, for example, as an element, and we could select parts of it. And to get to more detail, we can have like a hierarchy of 3D models where the most outer part is our complete observatory, and then we go inwards to detailed levels, what we decide where we want to end up actually as a 3D model. And then I'm sure Alberto will show it soon, but we can go then into the documentation where we have parts list, where we have up to the last screw ordered and drawings on it. So,
yes, that's right.
So one other thing related to that. So the echo is going to be weird.
Yeah, it's going to be easier. In fact, you can take the mic off the stand.
And then you would also have things like the job hazard analysis and or maintenance procedures that were given to vendors, yes?
absolutely, yes. And I'm sure Alberto will show us this. It's related to the maintenance activities themselves, where we actually put down the details on scheduling. Yes.
Yeah, this is the maintenance is just the topic of that I want to discuss.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe one final question that probably will lead you that direction, if I could.
Yes.
Please. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's very interesting to see how you can dive into the model and pick.
Sometimes the audio disappears, it fades.
Reverse direction.
Just a second. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Please,
Okay,
yes.
sorry. It would seem like most of the time we will want to use this by, there'll be some report coming up and saying, certain serial number parts need servicing, right? And so I would expect we would enter into this sort of 3D model environment more from the component level, right? We'd say, okay, we've got, 10 fan units that need maintenance or filters change or something like that, and we need to know where they are. Can you do that, or will you be able to demo that here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can demo it, but it is fully in both directions. So you come up from a detail, from an email basically in your email account that tells you, please do maintenance on this and this part. And you can click it, and it brings you to the 3D model, shows you the
where
part
it
and
is.
all
Okay.
of it.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks.
Please, Alberto. Or is there any other questions? I mean, we're really keen to get your questions in here. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. I know that a lot of questions will rise. Just only to mention, as you have said, that this is the first demo, and of course, our product is mainly based on building and floors and rooms configuration, but we have customers that in place use roads, bridge, and whichever, as you will use telescope and components and so on. So it's only to rename or rethink the structure, and the same applies. So we have only to identify the correct way you want to deploy this. And to answer the latest question, before moving on the maintenance, that maybe will clarify additional things, is that you can, of course, navigate in both in bi-directional way. And also, if you identify, for example, a broken or component, you can directly from here open the 3D model, and of course the piece will be identified and highlighted so that maintainer can see where it is placed. This is for sure, it's a bi-directional. So if you click there, you can go to that element directly. So it's bi-directional. So moving on, the maintenance, that maybe is a hot topic that will raise even more questions. Here you have basically a standard, let's say, calendar of what the planned activities that have been planned, of course, maybe in August. Of course, you can filter it. For example, now you can see here that I have two more. So I have with the zoomed, it's not really. I zoom a bit. Let me put it like that. Maybe yes. Okay. So I can filter it with maybe depending on where. So, for example, show me only the maintenance that related to this component, and so the system update it. For example, if I want to show only that on the camera, I will see nothing because there are no maintenance this month for the camera. While for the LSST telescope, I have maybe only these ones. But I can also perform a filter by team. So maybe I have different teams, and so show me the system and components activities, as well as a combination, of course, of the two. In this case, only this one. So the large, the telescope by this team has only this maintenance activity. So I can also know the availability, of course. And this is the calendar view. But I have also a more practical planner view of what is going on, and it's this one. So here it's based structured like from left to right, and here you can see all the planned events with a span in time. So I can zoom in with the details, so I can see here also if I pose the mouse there, I can see a lot more details on that. And I can zoom out, so I can see each of, in this case, I have assumed grouped by staff, let's say telescope, lift, and so on, different different stuff. So for example, weekly gears inspection as well as monthly optics control is, for example, or fortnightly chain gears. And so I have the different activities that I will show in a bit how I can configure in duration and advance and whichever. This is really helpful because I have a window here. Now it will take a little bit to load, but just to let you know that here I have a window, also this one configured, of already planned activities, so the orange ones, but I have also future in gray, future let's say extensions according to my calendar. So if I leave my configuration as is, in future I will have the same activities. So the gray ones are only projections in future. Of course, if I change something, this will change accordingly. Don't worry if you don't remember this. You have also here an help that tells you, for example, the orange is planned, the red one is aborted, this one is in execution. You can see that is barred, or the gray one is ended. So you have and help that gives me some information concerning this planner. Of course, the red line is now. As you can see here, I have some activities that has already started, some others that has to start. And for example, in this case, that I can see that this in this occasion, these two overlaps. I can decide, for example, to select this and move this forward. And okay, the system asks me, are you sure you want to update this instance? So are you sure you want to move this? Or I can move it backwards. Or I simply decide to, okay, I want to don't do that. So I want to abort this maintenance. So it's up to me. Or I can for example, decide to open it with double click, and here I have all the details the main details, because we will see all the details in a bit, concerning which maintenance plan, on which, for example, component, the description, the element, which is the opening date, and the expected start. So I can decide to start it earlier. It is expected by the 15th, but I can decide to, for example, start it now, or maybe to cancel it, or to update some of these informations, or to put some notes. Here I have the supplier and the team that will perform the activity, as well as I can also maybe specify an assignee if I want. And here it's a reference to the maintenance plan. That is the configuration on which this specific instance relies on. For example, I can see that the fortnightly chain gears blowing is planned every 2, so the frequency 2 weeks, with a forewarn of 2 days, a duration of expected also maybe of 2 hours, and this is the first due exact date. Why first? Because it's the first maintenance, then the others are planned accordingly. Just to mention, the system is capable also to reschedule the events based on maybe if I conclude it earlier or later, I can maybe decide to skip, to move, advance, back and forth, also the other ones, or to leave it as they are. So it's a logic that you can decide. More than this, you can also view the calendar to know when these specific occurrences of the fortnight chain blowing are placed. So every 2 weeks, so you can see in the calendar that in this month we have 2 times. We don't have here on Monday because as you can see here, there is a if we move on this, there is also the expected, the end, the first, and the end validity. The first is here, but it's skipped because it's passed in time, so it's not started. but we can specify a period from which to which this maintenance hold. Of course, beyond that, the planner and that configuration, so we have also all the, let's say, preventive maintenance activities. So here you have the started ones, the ongoing ones, but also you can see the scheduled ones, so the ones that are planned but not ready started. Yes?
We have some questions coming in.
Can you go back to that slide where you show the actual schedule or the duration and the planning part of that?
Yes, I will discuss it in a minute, but I can go back to that maybe here.
So in my experience, back in the mining days, we had something a lot more primitive than this. But
Yeah.
I want to know if you have a schedule there. Let's take Martin's example of replacing filters on a fan unit, right?
Yeah.
So who has the authorization that says when you get the schedule, you get your email and it says, hey, Chuck, you got to replace these today, right?
Yes.
Who has the authority to change that? The person that's actually doing the work, a supervisor, or what?
Yeah, so we have different. Well, the
Because
system
you
has
have
also,
levels of authority,
I know,
right?
It has different components, your question. So the system has different level of authentication and authorities, yes? So you can be an admin on the system, then you have all the rights to change things. You can only be a user where you cannot change nothing, or somebody in between who is allowed to enter things, yes? This is not the work management system. We explicitly exclude this here. It's capable of it. It has a lot of capabilities, but we decided to bring this over to the Jira system, and their management can decide to shift things, can prioritize tasks, and then can go back and let it be reflected here in the system.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And this is an important point, and I wanted to actually invite Alberto to inform us a little bit about the user levels, because there are going to be the people that use this every day as they're out and about maintaining things on the mountain. There are the administrators, as Holger just referred to, and there are people who can just access the system and see what, submit a ticket and see for repair of something that's necessary, and can check the progress on it. So can you just briefly explain a little bit about that user level and access, Alberto, before moving on? Because I think it's an important point we might not get to.
Yes. Actually, you have anticipated what I have to discuss, but of course, it's just I was showing that I'm showing that, so I can, as I've anticipated that the first I am a super user in this time, but I can emulate also additional roles. These are only a part of what I can configure. I can set any configuration I want, as you have understood. So these are only examples, but let's assume I belong to this group. So now let's say assume that I access to the system as with a different role. So moving on the previous classes, you can see that let the system load the grants. For example, on the building, in this case, you can see that this is disabled. I cannot add the card. And if I open it, I can only have a look at what it is inside, but I cannot modify it. I cannot delete. I cannot copy. I can only maybe print and show the relationship. So it's up to you to which level of configuration and what can be shown to who. Also, these tabs can be enabled or disabled distinctly for any different group. So in this case, you can see that I have a limited amount of possibilities. I can decide also to show or not show some specific records regarding who I am. So I can see maybe instead of 10 items, I can see only the ones that are commercial. So just to, my interface can be, I can see only this without filter. So I cannot see the others. Now it's only to configure, but to let understand, I can access the system and I can see only that, not the others. While if I belong to another group, for example, I can see all the stuff. If I go back to, I don't remember actually which grants, because it's a demo I have given here, but you can see that under the maintenance here I have no grants for, in this case, as a requester, I have no grants for the preventive. So you can see here in the menu where we were before, I cannot access that part. So I can only access these elements, and so not the preventive, because maybe the preventive is only available, for example, to the team group, and maybe the team group has only the possibility to take in charge some steps of the process and also modify only some specific fields. Just to mention that, for example, also I have a degree of freedom also in which of these fields I can expose. So, for example, the user cannot see the coordinates.
I just was, there was another question here. Did you, Martin, your question? If you want to, we are running a little bit short on time, so I'm sorry if I interrupt you. But I would like to, that we at least get the most questions in here, and later on maybe go into more detailed explanations on this.
Okay.
Please, Mark.
Yeah, this is Martin again. So I have tons of questions. This is really interesting. So maybe a quick one regarding the maintenance planning and sort of getting back to the calendar you showed. Is it possible to develop different calendars for different areas or different work groups, right? I mean, different hours, vacations, things like that, obviously is an easy one. But for us, there are parts of the facility which won't be available as much, right? Telescope and dome, if we're doing calibration 4 hours a day, that calendar is shorter per day, whereas back in the facility, you've got all day long, right? So for instance, is that possible to tune calendars based on people and as well as location?
Yes, of course, it's possible.
Okay, great. Okay, excellent. And then maybe the other question, and it looks like sounds like you're going to talk about maintenance cards next, so this might tie into that. The maintenance activities you showed were like every other week kind of activities or once a month or whatever, and I expect those are fairly straightforward. I could imagine we may have many maintenance activities that are key to usage, right? How much we're using it, right? Whether that's how many kilometers the telescope is rotated or something like that, and that telemetry will be captured by the facility database. Is there a way of actually syncing up those key telemetry data with the maintenance with this program, so we can actually predict when the next maintenance might be required?
Yeah, so
exactly. You can base on. Sorry.
It goes into the direction of the connectors that we are looking here at. We have defined one to our JIRA system, the work management system, but I understand there are several others existing, or we can write more of them. We have a very specific database. We can bring data in here. We did not foresee this until now. We have foreseen that we are recording data while executing maintenance activities. Yes. And we have in the inventory management system, the consumables that we are using, they are also registered with their levels. This is what we are doing now. But I understand you're looking more maybe an automatized approach to get information from sensor values, from things like this. And it's actually possible. This goes on the software interfaces that are here. Maybe, Alberto, if you have a bit on this one, you could explain.
Yes, of course, we can, for example, start not only maintenance activities based on a schedule, but also based on maybe this piece as 2,000 hours of working hours, or there is an alarm. So based on events, works of usage, or maybe also alarms or notification of the pressure is too high, start the maintenance based on that, or also on statistics or collection of data that put it together put together needs to start the maintenance. So we can do that.
Can you show us the dashboard possibilities? So we have a really nice way how to demonstrate how things are overview over all the system.
A dashboard of concerning what?
Usage of the system, for example. I remember you had one in your last.
Yeah, for example, here there is the team workload, but it's only a sample demo, the dashboard, sorry. But here you can, for example, now if I start a maintenance, I can have the number of the status, so how I go in progress with this, or maybe let me move there. I have dashboards of this.
So the dashboard capability in general is very powerful. So we basically can generate any graph that we want over there and put all the information that we want to have on one page. And this page can be for different person individualized. So you see this kind of diagrams, for example.
Yes, priority. So it's now it's really the Zoom cannot help in this case. So this is maybe better. You can have also the levels of basing on priority, on category, on the piece of or component. You have the slash, so maybe I have to conclude some elements. So you can develop as many dashboards as you want. These are only sample examples. And of course,
this is really good. Sorry, we got another question here.
Yeah.
Rodrigo.
Sí, Rodrigo de Chile. La pregunta es que los sistemas están considerados al interior del edificio, pero no sé si también están considerados los del exterior, que también son importantes.
Yeah, muy buena pregunta. So the question of Rodrigo is, we are considering here systems inside of the main building and the dome, but what is happening with systems that are outside actually? We have a different installation. One, for example, is a generator that is in a separate building. Can we also consider this here?
Yes, of course. You don't have to get stuck on the fact that there has to be a main building. It's enough that it's a maintenance. It's a tool for maintenance of everything related to the building or outside the building. So also the cutting the grass of the garden. It's the same.
Yeah, thanks, Alberto. Let me translate. So sí, es posible. Podemos tener varios edificios, chiquititos, grandes, no importa. Podemos maquinaria pesada, por ejemplo, como un elemento que está en el patio y podemos fácilmente agregarlo aquí como uno de los componentes y hacer la mantención sobre eso, ¿sí?
¿Estás en tu particular caso pensando en los vehículos o los elementos de levantamiento, cosas así?
Exactly.
Or cosas así. Okay, but and actually that raises a question that I have, and from Rodrigo's question, he was referring to the generator and other kinds of things that might be outside. But what about equipment like forklifts or man lifts, vehicles, things like that? Is that typically under openMAINT, or is that considered to be more like I don't know, transportation, different?
We have it like this, for example, like another equipment, and also with a QR code reader or generator. So I don't want to go too much in depth on this thing, but yes, of course, and this can also be managed within and during the maintenance process. So into that, I can also maybe not only view the items, but we can get the equipment here and maybe identify the most useful and propose it, and you can also add whatever you want. So tools, equipment, spare parts, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I would like to use this opportunity to point out that there is a mobility app, an application that you can have on your phone that you can use to go outside there. As long as you have internet, you can just have access to this system as it is, as you see it here. So no es solamente que vamos a tener la oportunidad de hacer las cosas, pero también tenemos una aplicación en el teléfono o en el tablet y podemos ir afuera mientras tenemos internet, podemos hacer la mantención y tenemos toda esa información a mano directamente. ¿Sí? So you had one thing, it's about the workflow, so it's something relatively deep inside there, but we can, it ties a bit in what Martin was asking, in how we organize work. So what triggers what actions? And this system is actually, it has a second layer where you can, as an administrator, go in and organize your workflows, pretty much like in Jira, if you know this system. So who is called at which moment, to which level, and things like this. Not sure if you have a view on this one.
Yes. So to answer these two questions, the one before and this one, so here it's an example of an element. This is a manual, but you can think about each element or asset of your observatory. You can have a link to your documentation. So here it's a link on this Docus share. I am not logging in, of course, but you can also have documentation like directly available here, maybe for the maintenance. So this is a question that you asked before, so I would like to show that you have, for example, this is all the manual concerning this part. Answering this latest question that I would like to show here, for example, let me start a maintenance. Of course, here I am in opening. I decide to start it. We select, for example, a plan. I decided to do it today, and let it execute. Now, here the process start. Of course, as before, I am super user, so I can do everything. I am like God in this case. But if you access as a specific group, you can do only a specific step. For example, here you can have a roadmap, let's call it that, of what are the possible steps that you can follow in this process. So schedule, acceptance, execution, suspension, completed, or cancelled. And here you can see that the second step in acceptance, the team can manage this step. If I am a different role, not team, but I am maybe the maintenance officer or the supervisor, I can maybe only the team can manage this step. It can upload attachments, or maybe can see them. It can view the items that are connected to this maintenance, because this is a fortnightly chain blowing, so all the chains in this case are applied to the same maintenance, but also in this case it's up to me if all the 4 chains or only one. And can see also the activity report, so a report that lists the activities to be done. So here are the basic informations and all the activities chain by chain that has to be completed. And here, yes, also here the list of the subtasks, so the activities to be performed. When the team decides that, okay, I will start execution, or no, I cannot, if it rejects, you can see that he has to specify why and specify an outcome, positive, negative, or cancelled. Otherwise, if he accepts or they accept the execution, he can put, but it's not mandatory. Let's assume that it accepts. Once accepted, you can move on a execution step, as you can imagine, that is in this case up to the same as before to the team, but can be a different group. Here the same as before, but imagine that you can set anything you want here, and you can see here that you have different actions. So I can close, I can suspend, I can change. If I close, I have to put an outcome, so for example, positive or negative, and an execution date. If I maybe do like that, you see that the system gives me the end date must be greater than the start date. Of course, I cannot say that I started now and I concluded it before, so the 1st of August. So at least I have to be now, but a little bit later. And here I have all the checklist. So the item is in good condition, yes. All parts are working properly, no. And maybe add a note, not working good. And the system tells me, okay, there is one note, and I can add an additional. Okay, let's fix it. And so the system tells I have 2 nodes, or maybe dust. Okay, I have dust, and dust is removed. Or maybe I can decide to not detectable. So this, I cannot do this. And I can specify here why.
Thanks a lot.
Alberto,
I think that's very good and it's very clear that we have all these options. And well, this is what I wanted to show that you can present us. We have all of this possibility of condition certain steps in our workflows. So we don't forget things. We are remembered. We have to fill fields, or we don't want to have this, and we also can just take this out. We have only 5 minutes left, so Jeff has some comments here.
Yeah, I did want to respect the fact that we do have only 5 minutes left and people are going to have to move on to the next thing. This has really been super, Alberto, and it picked up where the other one left off, and I'm actually very pleased to see that you've begun to implement it specifically for the Rubin system and beginning to incorporate some things. I wanted to make a couple of points and then maybe give you a chance to tell us a little bit about the training, which is the next thing that a number of the people that are online and involved in this will have to go through. But the points I wanted to make is it is going to be up to us. You can see that that he focused heavily on the lift. We wanted to show something, so we gave him an owner's manual. We tried to give him a model, some information about that. So he began to incorporate that information. That will come from us. Every single CAM, every single technical lead for a system will have to get involved in order to make this maintenance system meaningful, useful, and what it's supposed to be. So that's going to, unfortunately, that's the Rubin side of it. And in order to make this really a part of our observatory, it's going, right now, Alberto, as the project manager for Tecnoteca, is taking the lead, and he's going to do the things to get it onto a virtual machine on the mountain, make it all, as much information as he can incorporate. And then it's going to be a lot of time from all of us that have developed things and built things that now need to be maintained to provide the right information from our vendors. Some of that information doesn't even exist yet, or we might not have in the right format. And begin to think about that. Everybody out there, begin to think about what really should be in there for somebody downstream 2 years from now who you don't even know and might not know anything about that system. What should they bring up when they're looking at the azimuth drives on the dome, or the some element of the coding plant, or the camera, or the other kinds of things? What do they need, and what is just superfluous information? You just can't be a data dump. It's got to be the right information, the right models, and those kinds of things. And then I wanted you, hopefully, Alberto, to tell us a little bit about the training process, and those that are going to be trained. I will also mention we have 50 seats we've identified, or 50 users that will be in the system. We can increase that if it turns out to be 150 people in Tucson and California want to be actual users. We can expand it, but right now it's 50, and we'll figure out who those 50 people are. Not all of them, but some of them will be trained, and it's an extensive training. It's like 4 4-hour sessions. It's so hard to work into our schedules, I know, but it's something else that is coming. Hernan Herrera from the Dome is standing at the microphone, so he may have a question here too for the end.
Hola a todos. Quisiera saber qué tipo de indicadores de mantenimiento se integran en el sistema. Por ejemplo, sistema de confiabilidad, indicador de confiabilidad, tiempo medio entre fallas, tiempo medio de reparación y disponibilidad de equipos.
Yes. I get something. I can understand maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Yes, the answer
translate
is
first.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's about what indicators we are going to add to the system for triggering a maintenance activity, if I understand. And it says. So maybe I can even answer this now from what I have seen. And we can choose our triggers. Yes. So for the moment we are using triggers that are purely time based. So por el momento estamos usando en una frecuencia que estamos eligiendo nosotros por cada parte. ¿Sí? Y podemos decir cuando pasa que al menos vamos a ver un sistema cada semana, por ejemplo. Cuando encontramos es muy poco o muy alta la frecuencia, podemos modificarla. ¿Sí? Podemos tomar notas, aunque está pasando durante esa mantención, y podemos agregarlo al sistema. ¿Sí? Existe la posibilidad que hacemos más automáticamente, ¿sí? Que nos sale una medida de algunos sensores de un sistema y pasamos eso y dijimos, mira, pasa esa medida, necesitamos mantención. Y el sistema nos manda un correo para hacerlo. No sé qué es eso.
Tengo otra pregunta relacionada también al sistema.
¿Ya?
Si se van a integrar los costos relacionados a las reparaciones y fallas.
Sí se puede. So the question is about adding the cost for each of this, of a maintenance. It's possible, sure. Sí, tú puedes agregar los costos en sentido de cuántas horas de un hombre necesitamos. Y también cuándo es el costo de material y tal vez por un contrato también. En general teníamos pensando no tanto en eso en ese momento. El sistema te da esa opción, pero es una cosa que ya existe en el tema de reglas, ¿sí? Por eso está un poquito todavía afuera. Pero cuando queremos, podemos conversarlo, que es una cosa de desarrollo del sistema, ¿sí? Que queremos esas cosas en ese sistema, bueno, podemos hacerlo, ¿sí?
Ok, muchas gracias.
Yeah, actually, on the screen you can see the accounting.
Thanks. We have another question here. Sorry, Alberto. So the question is, if I understand right, then can we have a list of all the components, consumables, tools that we need to execute a maintenance activity when an email arrives to us? So when the alarm was triggered, basically. And yes, so the moment you email, it arrives with a link to the maintenance activity. You click on it, you get everything that you need to execute it, including the procedure. The procedures will be in PDF files in the beginning, and later on, when we have modifications, we can add them directly to the system. So it's a gradual process.
Can you hear me okay? You can? Okay. I just wanted to say we're extending into the break, which is fine with me, to take a few more minutes and let Alberto wrap up and to take a few more questions if we can. So if there are any from here or online, I'm not sure whether or not I didn't see any in the chat so far, but any of those that are joining on Blue Jeans. But we'll stay for a few more minutes.
¿Algunas preguntas más? Nosotros quedamos aquí para que respondamos las preguntas, pero el resto puede salir a sacar un cafecito.
This is not a question. This is to complement the Hernan question. As a baseline for the general maintenance, the frequency will be according to the manufacturer of the equipment.
Yes. So, Eduardo está comentando que la frecuencia de mantención va a depender del equipamiento donde vamos a hacer la mantención. Y claramente que es así. Y esa frecuencia depende de nosotros cuántas veces queremos hacerlo. ¿Sí?
Y depende, depende del fabricante del equipo, que indica la frecuencia mínima de
Sí.
mantención.
Sí, es una cosa que muchos de documentos ya tienen una sugerencia sobre la frecuencia y eso
Correcto.
podemos tomar como una primera y después con la experiencia de los especialistas estamos libres a modificarlo.
Correct.
There's another question here, please. Yes.
En el listado, en el procedimiento que uno puede observar en el sistema, uno puede chequear las partes del procedimiento en sí para ver desde el punto de vista de safety cómo se desarrolla ese mismo trabajo.
Sí, so es una pregunta. So it's about the safety related aspects and how to make sure that we are all noting well what is happening during and where are the main dangers of this thing, of a maintenance activity. Sí, se puede marcar las cosas, podemos darle símbolos sobre cosas particularmente peligroso, podemos darle como el workflow de trabajo, podemos decir, mira, primero necesitas cumplir con ciertos aspectos de seguridad, de safety, antes de te dejar entrar a ejecutar esa mantención, por ejemplo. ¿Sí? Eso son cosas que están a nosotros, como nosotros organizámonos en ese sentido. ¿Ya? Otras preguntas. Other questions, please.
Maybe you and I and Jeff should just talk about hierarchy of safety documentation, just to make sure we're clear. Because what Sergio asked is sometimes put in a hazard analysis process or a documentation, might be in the procedure, or it might be a critical lift procedure or something like that, right? And so it has the capability of doing that. Maybe we figure out, just how we make sure all that documentation is given to the people that actually are doing the work, right?
Absolutely, yes. We have to decide what documents we are tracing to each of these activities and what preparatory activities needs to be done. And yes, we can also make that before anything happens, one from safety has to tick off the activity. So, yeah, so the levels must be always present depending on things like this. We can define the team members that execute a maintenance activity. Tal vez por traducirla, podemos definir quién va a estar en una actividad y solamente cuando safety, por ejemplo, está en el lugar, se empieza a ejecutar ciertas operaciones porque son muy críticas. ¿Sí? Y eso nos da la libertad y unas marcas rojas en el sistema que nos hace recordar que aquí hay un peligro inminente que necesitamos mitigar antes de empezar de verdad con el trabajo. ¿Sí? Alberto, I hope you understand me. If you have a question, I'm happy to also answer this. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. If you have a question regarding help desk, who do you actually contact? Is there a chat link? Would there be a chat link?
That's an actually very interesting question. So there's also a portal connected for persons who are not actually directly connected to this environment. So if you don't know what's wrong, yes, you just notice something, and you can send an email, a message through a portal that is way more user-orientated, general user-orientated, and it will be propagated to the person that we want to have. So you have an electrical person, my light in the office is not working, and it will propagate it to somebody who is a specialist on this topic. Maybe there are questions that cannot be answered directly, then it goes to a group of people who has to look at it and triage the problem and then generates the tickets in the workflow system. So it has a very nice aspect that was not mentioned before actually on this one. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Oh, the system itself, it will be in English and Spanish, and it has 12 other languages, I believe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that might be a good segue back into the training process, because the training will be in English. We are going to provide translation for those of you that prefer or understand better in Spanish. And believe me, I understand. It's better in your native language. And so we will be doing that. But can we, just as a closeout comment and maybe inviting any other questions to come up, but can you walk us through basically what's in the trainings, Alberto, and how they're carried out? Do you do them yourself, or is it trainers? How's it work?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the system is full located, so Spanish in whichever language. And concerning the training, we can provide different levels and to different aspects of training. That can be training concerning how to use the system. So once we have configured it, to train the operators to use the interface and how to move in the system and to stay comfortable in using openMAINT. Then we have also trainings concerning the administrator or technicians or system engineers. So in helping you be, let's say, autonomous in extending or knowing the behavior and how to configure openMAINT. So training, for example, to use the administrator module to add the class, add an attribute, or specify properties, mandatory, unique, or whichever thing you think, but also to develop, for example, reports, processes, dashboards, or whatever. And of course, we can decide together how to set up this training depending on the audience. I can take care of this, me or one of my colleagues. It's up on us, so it depends also on our availability. But of course, you have an experienced trainer with respect to the training that we are following, of course. I hope I have answered.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, as I say, this is something we will have to figure out who, when, and how to carry that out. How soon might that happen? How soon do you think the system will be ready for us to be trained on it?
The answer is it's up on you. Let's say that once you tell us when you and how you want to the things are working, for immediately later we can perform a training, because before it would be useless. You have a system that is not properly configured according to your needs. So once you have decided the structure and we have deployed it, immediately afterwards we can, let's say, set up a meeting concerning the user experience usage. Otherwise, if you mention the training concerning how can we be autonomous or how can we create or configure the system, this can be also maybe as a part of a training on the job. So it's up on you.
We have a question here from Austin, actually coming in, and it's about the advanced programming interface. And the question is, what languages, programming languages, are supported so that we can do the integration to our other systems?
Integration in which sense?
So
well, I can ask the question if you want, Holger.
Yeah, of course, Austin, you are on.
Yeah, just like some of the people have brought up questions about, for example, like predictive maintenance and that. And, we essentially had, kind of different requirements on the observatory for preventive maintenance versus predictive maintenance. So we were kind of notionally planning on utilizing some of the predictive algorithms and technologies that we've already built or we have plans to build for other purposes, and use that same type of platform to integrate that those predictive algorithms with this system. And I just forget like what technologies or what languages the API supports for us to integrate with.
Okay, this is clearer. Thank you. So as mentioned, we are capable of synchronizing data back and forth. So as being the master or as being the slave, or also bidirectionally, and we can exchange information via web services that can be SOAP, but hopefully it will be better if they are REST, but we support also the SOAP. And but we can also, if it's not possible, or if a web service is not available, we can also connect directly, like in JDBC, so directly on a database, or directly from spreadsheets. Also, it's maybe if you have this data or the predictive algorithm as an outsource or whichever, and it provides in a spreadsheet or a CSV file, we are capable to base also on that. So we are capable to connect more or less to everything that can provide us or to which we can provide something useful. Of course, we need only to exchange how this data exchange has to be performed. But more or less, any protocol, for example, just to give you one really specific, we have used the Modbus protocol that is in like HTTP, but more specific, to connect directly to sensors to retrieve data stored in registers. So yes, more or less we can support. If you have specific questions on specific protocols or setups, I can maybe be more precise.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit premature, but that is pretty important, because so a lot of the systems that we would be monitoring these types of values, we basically already have a whole system set up where these systems are communicating through telemetry and standard DDS architecture into what we call like our engineering facility database. So we have already some systems who do monitoring, and it raises alarms if values reach certain thresholds, so on and so forth. But then I also envision that we have some systems where they might not have software that's communicating all the telemetry from particular sensors or something like that. And so I think what you said is that openMAINT is capable of kind of handling both, where if it's, if we want to just use openMAINT's REST API to communicate that, hey, we've got an alarm on this system, this value reached a certain threshold, we could communicate that with openMAINT and possibly do something with that. But then if we don't have that system set up, we could actually directly connect to particular sensors in the system, and openMAINT could handle the alarms or actions to be taken based on certain levels for individual sensors.
Yes, exactly. This is typically what we configure for our customers. So, for example, you have certain bunch of sensors that maybe are old-fashioned or maybe different, and we need to contact them directly. So it's openMAINT that takes charge of manage them. But maybe for other systems, you have your own outsourcing software or application that manages these data, and we can collect that data in order to predict when to start maintenance, or can be the external service that contact us telling, please, you need to start a maintenance. And of course, there can be a communication. So maybe we can ask to the external system, or the external system can tell us, please do that, and then we will be back with some information. Moreover, one point that I want to let you know is that, of course, we have standard APIs, REST or SOAP, that you can contact to perform more or less any operation that you can do by hand. And but you can also we can also customize, so have a specific endpoint.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that's a very important aspect, and we have to go into this. I think it's getting very technical, so I think we should make a separate meeting on this one, and everybody who is interested in the interface to the engineering database. And okay with you, Austin?
Yeah, that's fine. I think the main takeaway was that, yes, it can handle individual sensors that we want openMAINT to do the monitoring of, and we can also have external services that are doing that just need to communicate with openMAINT. So both use cases are supported.
Yeah, yes. Okay, we are really on top of the time already.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that participated online, and especially to Alberto for staying until, I think it's about 8 at night. And
no worries.
Long work day for him today. And those of you that participated here in person. We did gain some people as the time went by and other sessions ended and people came in. So, and I think the interest in this will grow and grow and grow, because we do need to make it real. And as I say, it's going to touch every single one of your lives. So we're working on that. Did you want to give any closing comments, Alberto? Just a big thanks to you.
Just that is my pleasure to be here with you, and I really enjoy to be part of this project. And yes, it's really my pleasure, and it's a lovely day. I hope it will be. I've tried to be as clear as possible, and thank you. And let's discuss it and continue this project as we have planned.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, I think we're done. So thanks.
Yeah. Jeff or Holger, what would be the next step?
Pardon?
Yeah, Eduardo, I think we can talk offline, but definitely the next steps, I would say, are finishing the implementation, which you won't probably be too involved in, but you may be a little, and then the training, and then we're going to learn about it as we use it. This is going to be an on-the-job training project. So that's really, I would say, the sequence of things.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, have a nice day.
Okay.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.